Hey everyone, Cold Dow Soda here, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the Nintendo home consoles. Before we get started, I want to stress that these are just my opinions. I'm not saying any of these consoles are necessarily better than another console. I'm just going based off of my personal experience with each console. So of course, a lot of factors will play into my ranking, such as my nostalgia or childhood experiences with each console, how much I've enjoyed the games that are on said console, and just overall my experience. I would absolutely love it if you guys wanted to comment your rankings down below. I'm always interested in seeing other people's opinions. And please, if you haven't yet, like and subscribe. At number 7, I have the NES. Now, yes, this is at the bottom of the list, but that doesn't mean it's a bad console. It just means it's my least favorite out of the Nintendo consoles. But it is still amazing and has some amazing games on it. It's where Legend of Zelda got its start, and also you have to talk about Super Mario Bros. 1 through 3 were on this console. Now, obviously, I'm a little too young, so this console was never really popular in my lifetime, it being released in 1986, so that also plays into it as well. At number 6, we have the SNES. Released just 5 years after the NES in 1991, the SNES improved on basically everything from the NES. Better controller, better graphics, better games, and it was so crazy back then because a lot of people didn't understand that to play the newer Mario game, the Super Mario World, you would need better hardware to be able to run the larger game. Now, I wasn't alive back then, but it sounds like some crazy times because people were just not used to having sequels to a console. And not only that, but you got some amazing games on there as well. Super Mario World was an incredible game. I hear mixed reviews on it. I always hear half people like it, half people think it's very overrated. I'm one of the people that like it. You also have Super Mario All-Stars, which has the NES Mario games in it, remastered. You have incredible games like Donkey Kong Country and Star Fox that use the effects chip, and that brought the games to a whole new level. It was able to make them be able to bring 3D into a 16-bit console. And of course, you had some other awesome games from third parties. What's probably my favorite third-party Super Nintendo game is probably Goof Troop, and a lot of that's due to nostalgia. You also have amazing games like Mega Man X, Earthworm Jim, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Those are some great games as well. So the SNES is sitting at 6th place. Number 5 is going to be the GameCube. Literally came out the year I was born, 2001. But for the longest time in my life, I did not even know the GameCube existed because I only had one Nintendo console, and that's one we'll talk about later. But a little bit later in life, my older brother got a GameCube, and he had Super Smash Bros. Melee, which I also did not even know existed, and that game was just completely crazy to see. To me, the GameCube is one of the consoles that has so many hidden gems that people don't know about, like Chibi Robo, Kirby's Air Ride, F-Zero GX, Star Fox Assault. That's definitely one of my favorite Star Fox games for sure, especially the multiplayer. Now with the GameCube as well, you could also get an attachment to play Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games straight on your TV, and that was a pretty cool addition. And you were also able to get an adapter for the Game Boy Advance and plug that into your GameCube and use your Game Boy Advance as the controller. The GameCube was the first Nintendo console to use discs, but they used mini discs that weren't able to exactly hold the amount of space that the PS2 and the Xbox were able to hold. So a lot of the third-party games on the GameCube that also were on the Xbox and PS2 had to be split up in 2 discs. And you also can't talk about the GameCube without talking about games such as Super Mario Sunshine, Resident Evil 4, Metroid Prime. So many classics, but that's sitting at number 5. And at number 4, I have the Wii U. Now, the Wii U is a very controversial console. It was very confusing, especially with the marketing. So many people thought that it was just an upgraded controller for the Wii. But to me, the Wii U is awesome. It came out in 2012. I didn't get my Wii U until like 2016 though. So many people sleep on the Wii U though. It had so many great games. Super Mario 3D World. And you have the remastered Twilight Princess, a remastered Wind Waker. You had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Mario Kart 8 made its debut there. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, definitely an underrated Smash Bros. Game. The tragic thing about the Wii U is when the Nintendo Switch came out, it basically just re-released all the good Wii U games onto the Switch, rendering the Wii U useless for some players. It was not useless for people like me, who didn't even have a Nintendo Switch yet. And also, you have the Virtual Console on the Wii U. You were able to play DS games, Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, NES, Super Nintendo, N64 games. And this was before we had the Switch Online that includes that now. To me, the Wii U is definitely one of the most underrated gaming consoles of all time. Especially nowadays, there's a lot of people that mod their Wii U's and they get way more use out of them today. I remember my friend and I were both trying to get a Wii U around the same time. We were trying to get jobs. I think he ended up getting it before me, but I ended up catching up and getting one. But overall, I had such a great time with the Wii U, and honestly, I still play mine to this day. So the Wii U is sitting comfortably at number 4. At number 3, I have the Nintendo Switch. Now this is going to be a controversial placement, but I already said this has to do with my nostalgia and my love for the console. This is my personal list, so please don't get upset that this is at number 3 if this is your favorite console. The Nintendo Switch has so many great things going for it. With its hybrid console abilities, you can take it on the go with you. Nintendo really shines with this one. They brought back the cartridges, which some people dislike, some people like, but they're a lot better than they used to be. As the most recent Nintendo console, it is lacking in things such as graphics and a lot of times frame rate, especially when you're on handheld mode. There's some hit or miss games there, but you got some notable and amazing games such as Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and what's well worth noting is that the Nintendo Switch has a lot of third-party support these days. A lot more than the Wii U had, that's for sure. The Nintendo Switch is probably the most versatile Nintendo console of all. You got motion controls with Joy-Cons you can use for motion-controlled games. They have the Labo, which includes VR. They have IR sensors on the Joy-Cons. You can plug in the GameCube adapter to play some games with the GameCube controllers. A lot of things that we have not had on other Nintendo consoles. Oh, and also, they included the headphone jack. There is a reason why the Nintendo Switch is one of the most sold consoles of all time. So, sitting at number 3 is the Nintendo Switch. So, there are only 2 consoles left, so you probably already know what they're going to be. So, with that being said, number 2 is going to be the Nintendo Wii. There are so many great things to say about the Nintendo Wii, especially from my personal experiences. The Nintendo Wii was first released in 2006, so I was at perfect age to want one, but I didn't even know what they were up until like maybe 2008. Talk about being 2000 and late. But man, where do I even start with this? The thing that made me want to get a Nintendo Wii, no joke, was the Toy Story 3 game. I saw a trailer for it on Disney XD, and that just instantly sold me. I remember I was on a trip visiting my family in New Mexico, and that came on the TV. And at the time, I was very, very obsessed with Toy Story. It was like my favorite thing of all time. I saw the commercial for Toy Story 3, and I didn't even necessarily know what console I wanted because it showed that it was also on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. And my older brothers were like, get a Nintendo Wii so we can finally play the new Smash Bros. Game. So my parents were out in the backyard with my dad's 2 cousins because we were staying at their place, and I immediately went out there and just interrupted whatever conversation they were having, and I was just like, Dad, can I get the Wii because I really want to play the Toy Story 3 game? And then he was just like, I'll tell you what, if you can read 100 books and you have to prove to me that you've read them, then I will get you a Nintendo Wii and the Toy Story 3 game. So I was very, very determined to read 100 books to get the Nintendo Wii. And yes, I won't lie, I did read a lot of little kid books, but also I was a little kid. I was like 7 or 8. So flash forward to when I'm finally reading my 100th book, my dad jokes around and like acts like he's trying to stop me from reading it. I remember I shut myself in the hall closet and finished up the last book, and he was like knocking on the door acting like he was trying to stop me. And once I finally read the 100th book, I had a piece of paper that I would keep track of how many books I read, and I wrote the title down at number 100. I actually don't remember what book it was, so I unfortunately can't tell you that. But once I got it done, the next day, my dad took me to Kmart, RIP, and we picked up a Nintendo Wii. I got the black console that came with Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort, so I already had 2 amazing games to play right off the bat. So that's just a funny story of how I got my Wii. There are so many amazing gaming experiences I had with the Wii as well when I finally got one. Like I already said, Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort were some amazing games. I especially liked Resort. So many other amazing games for the Wii that I had. Like the Toy Story 3 game, yes, I actually ended up loving it, and I still love it. I ended up buying it for my Xbox recently, and it's really an amazing game. A lot of movie games usually suck, but the Toy Story games are actually pretty good. You got Smash Bros. Brawl. I actually remember my first time I ever played Smash Bros. Brawl was in a GameStop, and I played as King Dedede. I was fighting Ganondorf. I didn't actually own Smash Bros. Brawl yet. When I moved away from my hometown, I met a new friend. He's the only friend I ever knew that actually loved the Smash Bros. Games. And he had Smash Bros. Brawl, and he brought it over to my house, and we played it, and that absolutely sold me on it, and I had to get the game. And to be honest, Smash Bros. Brawl is definitely up there for me for Smash Bros. Games. So underrated. I know it has the tripping and the weird physics, but man, do I absolutely love that game. You also had Nintendo bring back the 2D side-scrolling Mario games with New Super Mario Bros., which was such an amazing game. They also had it on the DS as well. And by the way, stay tuned for when I rank the Nintendo handheld consoles. You had what is a lot of people's favorite Mario game, Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. I personally don't have much nostalgia for it, but it is a great game. Now I know there's a lot of shovelware for the Wii, and we just won't speak of those because there's just way too many of those games. The Wii also sold a lot of consoles, and yes, it was for reasons of them aiming for a different demographic with a lot of casual players. But the Wii is great for some actual advanced gamers as well. I absolutely love the Wii, and it will never leave my heart. The memories I have with it are so sacred with me, and it is sitting at number 2. But there is just one more console that I have a lot more memories with, and you already know what it is. It is the Nintendo 64. Now this may or may not be a controversial number 1 pick, especially because I see a lot of people having like love-hate relationships with the N64. Like for one, it didn't sell very much, and yeah, it did have one of the strangest controllers in gaming. But do not sleep on the games, my friend. You had so many amazing games, such as Super Mario 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong 64, the first Super Smash Bros. Game got its start here, Mario Kart 64, Diddy Kong Racing, F-Zero X, GoldenEye, one of the pioneers of 3D first-person shooters, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. So many great games. I know a lot of fans also have a lot of love-hate relationships for some of those games, especially Donkey Kong 64, unfortunately. Can we at least admit that the DK rap is a club banger? Another reason why this is sitting at my number 1 is because it was my first console I ever personally owned. I grew up in a house with an N64, and I honestly can tell you, I cannot remember a time in my household where we did not have a Nintendo 64. It was at a time when gaming was getting into the 3D era, so you were able to still have that little simplicity, but also it made the worlds feel so big and so explorable in a lot of games. Now, I know the N64 came out in 1996, and I was born in 2001, so please don't try to gatekeep 90s kids. As I said, I grew up in a household that always had an N64 laying around. I honestly grew up on a lot of stuff my older siblings did because that's pretty much all we had. And there was also a time where we basically all had an N64 in our rooms. And I gotta mention too that the N64 was the first Nintendo console to include 4 players. It was so cool to be able to play games with 4 people. I also have to mention the start of the Mario Party series. So many great games, and they were definitely at their prime in the N64 and the GameCube era. And speaking of being at your prime, Rareware was also at their prime in the Nintendo 64 era, making so many classics like Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64, Diddy Kong Racing, GoldenEye. They also had Jet Force Gemini. And I also gotta mention Perfect Dark because a lot of people feel that it improved on what GoldenEye did. I'll probably end up doing some rankings of my favorite games of these different Nintendo consoles, but definitely the N64 has to be at number 1 for me due to it being my first console and the console I have had with me the most. So at number 1 is the Nintendo 64. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and also please comment your rankings down below. I want to see what all you guys think. I'm Cold Dow Soda, and I'll see you in the next one.